Well, please do be seated. Now, my good friend, the Dean of Sydney, Philip Jensen, has often remarked that the sign of a growing church is that it experiences growing pains. If we don't feel some kind of pressure, then something is wrong. It may be pressure for more rooms, for more leaders, for more ministers, or even the pressure simply to keep the same level of ministry. Well, those are some of the growing pains that we're experiencing at the moment. And in a very down-to-earth practical matter, it affects us at the level of our finances and the call for us all to be caught up in what Paul calls the grace of giving. So just for a few moments, I just want to share with you, as a church family, what some of our financial needs are and how we might respond to those needs. Now, for those of you who don't know, perhaps you're new here, we have two pockets for our finances. There is the PCC, the Parochial Church Council, St. John's, and the money given here covers things such as the running of this building, ministries like these services, salaries and costs of Shirley, our administrator, for myself, Scott, and half of Jake. Now, our situation this year is that if we're simply to balance the books, we need to see an increase in our income of 8%. And putting that into figures, which we can all understand, this means that if someone gives £100 a month, then they could give £108 a month, or £25 a week would be £27 per week. If someone gives £40 a month, then they could give £43.20 a month, or £10 a week would be £10.80 a week. And if someone gives £10 a month, they could give £10.80 a month, or £2.50 a week would be £2.70 a week. And if we do that, we're going to pay our bills, and if we don't, we can't. So that's the first pocket. Now, the second pocket is the Newland Christian Trust. Now, this is a special charitable trust we set up to promote the work of gospel here in the parish. And this covers the cost of the Newland Christian Centre and, amongst other things, the salaries of Jeff Waring, Heather Payne, and Lee McMahon, who's our minister at Riverside and St. Faith's. Now, these are three very gifted and very dedicated people. And I believe that we probably have the best children and young people's work in the city, if not in the diocese. And this is in no small measure due to the work of Heather and all her assistants and helpers. Now, over the years, this trust has benefited from large one-off gifts which have come in to us from outside the parish. We can no longer depend on these. As a result, this year we're facing a projected shortfall of £30,000. Now, this amounts to the combined salaries of Jeff and Heather, or the costs for Lee. And so the church's choices we face are rather stark. If we don't ensure a constant income, it means that we cannot support Jeff and Heather, or we can't support Lee. But I believe that under God, we can meet all of these. Now, let me be very personal and frank for a moment. Jesus says on the Sermon on the Mount that when you give to the needy, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. And this text has been taken by some Christians to mean that no one should know how much you give to God's work. That is not what it means. It simply means that we should give and not be that self-conscious in doing it. So we should not give thinking to ourselves, well, I'll give this much, but I don't really like it. Or, am I not wonderful in giving this much? No, the Bible tells us we give thoughtfully, we give cheerfully, and we give unself-consciously. We don't dwell on it. We've done it, we do it. Now, as a minister, I'm expected rightly to set an example in everything. So just let me share with you, for your encouragement, not for my glory, but for your encouragement, what Heather and I do. Ever since we were first converted, we followed the principle of giving as a minimum to God's work what we call a tithe. That is 10% of our income to the Lord's work, come what may. And it's been a blessing for us to be able to have stuck with that, even when times were very hard, like raising 3 sons solely on a curate salary. We're now in a position where we give 15% of our income, and I'm also blessed to be in a position to add a further £3,000 a year on top of that, which I give to the Newland Christian Trust and St. John's, which comes from my income as Director of Yorkshire Training. So it just goes straight into the church. And the thing is, we love doing it. Now, if all of us could get caught up in this joy of giving, there'd be a tremendous transformation. We would be able to keep our workers, and we could do much, much more besides. So if you've not yet started to give to the Newland Christian Trust on a regular basis, let me strongly encourage you to do so without any further delay. If you've not yet started to give regularly to St. John's, PCC, or you've not increased your giving, again, let me urge you to do so. How do you do it? Well, you take one of the giving booklets, we've got a pile of them over there, and that'll explain the practicalities of how you do it. If you pay tax, please enable us to reclaim some of your money back, which makes a massive difference. A simple way is to give by standing order or to use these envelopes. You take a number, they're over there on the wall. Take a number home and just give regularly. So blue for the church and yellow for the Newland Christian Trust. Now, in addition to this, in order to address the needs of the Newland Christian Trust, on the week leading up to March the 23rd, we're going to have a special week of prayer for the work of the Trust. And then on Sunday the 23rd of March, in addition to our normal collection, we're going to have a special one-off collection to the Trust to offset the projected deficit. And I want to invite all of you to join with me in this. Now, the Bible tells us that God loves a generous giver. He really does. Why? Because he's generous. And so we're simply reflecting his heart. And I delight in belonging to a generous church. So, brothers and sisters, let's respond to this quickly, practically, and joyfully to this special call, I think, at this very special time. And the next song we're going to sing fits in perfectly with this. It's really taken from Philippians chapter 3, as Paul reflects on his life. And he says, all I once held dear, built my life upon, all this world reveres and wars to own, all I once thought gain, I've counted loss, spent and worthless now compared to this. What is it? Knowing Jesus. Let's stand and sing.